Hello, YouTube. This is NatanisLikens, and today we are in Back for Blood. This has been my favorite game in recent years, and I have played quite a bit about it. Quite a bit about it? I have played quite a bit of it. And today, what we are going to do is kind of go over this game for newbies and talk a little bit about what new players should expect. And the reason for this is I have noticed an influx of new players recently, and those new players don't seem to have a clue about this game. So first off, let's talk a little bit about it. If you know anything about it, then you should know that this is a spiritual successor to the Left 4 Dead franchise. And in many ways, it is the same game. In many ways, it is not. And that is what we are here to talk about. If you've played the Left 4 Dead series and beaten it on higher levels of difficulty, such as Expert, do not expect to be able to jump in Back for Blood and be able to do the same thing. It is not the exact same game. And we're going to go over a little bit about that. So first off, when you get into the game, this is effectively the lobby area. This is where you'll start your adventure of playing Back for Blood. And there's a few different points. You can see these markers here that are points of interest. We're going to go over them. They really aren't necessary for you to walk to because all these do is bring you directly into its perspective or into its specific menu. So if we go over here, this one is the supply lines. This is where you're going to buy all of your cards and your skins for characters and weapons. Then over here we have all the cards right here. This is all the cards. Over here is the dressing room. You can customize what the characters look like based on what you've unlocked so far. And then you've got the weapons area over here. Same deal. You apply whatever skin you have to that weapon. And then over here we have the campaign menu. And then right here is the Swarm campaign menu, or Swarm challenge, whatever you want to call it. I haven't actually done a swarm, so I don't really know how that works at all. And then there's a few other things to interact with, such as the punching bag and the speed bag. You can actually walk over to these and punch them. And then you have a boxing arena right here where you can jump in and box your friends. This is also where you will have your friends. So if we come into the main menu, you see I've got these blank areas here. I can invite another player with me and they will appear in here alongside me. And that is before we actually get into any of the game or anything. Now, before we get too far into it, there are a few things I want to talk about. First off, let's go to the range because Back for Blood works a little bit differently with its weapons than the Left 4 Dead series did. And you can see we got all the weapons over here and all the gadgets and things that we could possibly find here, except for healing items. There are no healing items over here, but this is pretty much practice for you to be able to work on your aim. And alongside all these, we have most of the attachments. I say most because it does not include the melee attachments, which I find kind of odd, that being that they did introduce the bow and some of the new items over here, that they did not add the melee attachments anywhere that I can find. If they are here, I don't know where they're at. I have looked and looked and looked, and I don't believe they did, in fact, add the weapon attachments. But let's go over the weapons and attachments, because this is, like I said, a little bit different from the Left 4 Dead series. First off, if I mouse over one of these, you'll see that all of these weapons are in fact white in name. And if I go up here, you'll see that some of these attachments are green. So weapons do have a level base. So this already starts working kind of like an RPG. And this is where I tell a lot of people on Reddit that instead of thinking of Back for Blood like the Left 4 Dead series, you need to think of it more like the Borderlands series, because you do have weapon stats and even character stats that you have to take into account. And to prove that point, like I said, we do have some of the attachments here that are all green. Attachments, green is the lowest you can find. There is red, but red is broken. Like, you want to get rid of that as soon as possible. And then the highest you can find is legendary, as all of the clips up here are legendary. I don't know why they did that and then left pretty much all of the other attachments green. There are a couple of legendary stocks listed up here. Again, I don't know why they did that and didn't make all of these just legendary or be able to select what quality these are. So that is one odd thing, and we can like grab any combination of these and put it on our weapon right here. So there you go. We got just a bunch of different things. Same goes for our pistol, except we can't grab those. But yeah, there you go. We got a couple of different attachments on these. And then I can just go through and pick any other weapon, do the same thing, like grab that, grab this, and grab that. And that's how that works. It's fairly simple. Again, the melee weapons, they did not include the melee attachments. And the melee attachments are actually the same thing for the bow, only they do different things based on if you're using a melee weapon or the bow. So yeah, they're all the same. They just do something different if you're using the bow. And that is pretty much this area. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just a practice range for you to be able to like work on your aim and everything, as you can see right there. But yeah, being that there are quality levels to these, there are stats to these, and every single character has different, not really stats, but different abilities or stats that they come with. And as you can see in the bottom left corner, we are Walker right now. He is the one that I'm currently working on taking through Nightmare, because I would like to beat Nightmare eventually, and hopefully at one point maybe I'll even be able to beat No Hope. So let's talk a little bit about the difficulties and things around actual gameplay. First and foremost, we are going to start talking about the characters themselves. As you can see, there are 12 characters, and again, each one of these comes with a different ability, a different stat that is primarily theirs, and a different team-based stat. Now, much like Left 4 Dead, there are only 4 characters in any given match, and you can actually pick which character you are during those matches. And you can, once you pick the character, you are that character until either the match ends or you beat the level. So you are stuck as that character. Same goes for your deck. If you pick the deck, you are stuck with that. Depending on when you are joining in a game, it also means that you have equipment that is specially suited for one of these characters. And what I mean by that is, if we go here to Doc, they do not show the primary weapon anymore. I don't know why they got rid of that, but you can see right here below Doc's card that tells you exactly what her ability is, what her special stat is, and then what her team stat is. It'll show you their their secondary weapon. Again, at one point they did have the primary weapons on there. I don't know why they got rid of it. And Doc, I do believe, comes with a Beretta, and because I can't remember the name of it, an MP5. There we go. Yep, that one right there. This is effectively what Doc starts with, and actually, we can do this a different way too. So if I go here to character select, this is the character that I'll be roaming around in the fort for the time being. Once I get into a game and play as a different character and then get out of that game for whatever reason, I'll be whatever character. But we can go here and let's just pick Carly. And you'll see that I now have the Tech 9 and an AK-47. And that's the same for pretty much all the characters. Like they have different loadouts based on which character you are picking. And again, this also depends on when you pick that character. Because there are times where, say, somebody is playing a character, they get out of the game. Well, when you come into the game, you're going to be stuck with their loadout. So whatever weapons that they had, that's what you're going to be using until you can pick your character, which is usually at the beginning of every map. So once you beat that stage, you get to the next map, then you can pick your character, pick your deck of cards, and then play. Simple as that. We'll possibly show a little example of that in a minute. But yeah, that's all that on the characters. There are no real bonuses that we can talk about because each one of these are set a specific way. And what I mean is, like, if I go in and change things around, I cannot change their abilities. Their abilities are there. It's just whatever it is. Now, in order to really put that ability into use, you need to make a deck specifically for a character. Because, like I said, most of these are specialized. They do have specific stats for specific reasons, such as Evangelo, Holly, and Charisse are pretty much the melee group. So if you're running a melee build and using a melee weapon, you want to be using one of these three characters. You don't want to be using any of the others with a melee build, mostly because these guys come pre-ready for melee. Holly gets she gets an extra healing ability when she kills a Ridden with a melee weapon. She has an extra 25 stamina, and her team ability is damage resistance for the entire team. And then Evangelo, if I can go to the right thing, Evangelo comes with the breakout ability. He has 25% stamina regeneration and gives his entire team a 5% move speed bonus. So yes, Holly and Evangelo pretty much need to be running a melee deck. Using them for anything else is kind of pointless, but I mean, it is possible, though. I would say you need to stick with running a deck that strengthens that particular character and not using a weird combo like having a DPS deck on Doc. She pretty much needs to be running a healing deck along with Mom and possibly even Hang or Prophet Dan. Hang's a little bit different. His abilities are kind of weird. They're a little bit over the way out there in terms of what is available. He can pretty much run anything. Same with Dan. Talia pretty much just needs to be a DPS of some sort, preferably a ranged DPS. Her abilities are kind of interesting, but the point there is you need to build a deck specifically for that character. So get to learn these characters and make decks for them, and just experiment a little bit. But keep in mind that these characters are meant to fill a specific role, such as Jim, pretty much meant to be a ranged DPS. Same for Walker. Just a ranged DPS is pretty much all he should be. So let's talk about decks, because this is very important when it comes to difficulty in the game. Because as I mentioned earlier, there are some RNG aspects akin to any kind of RPG game that you've played. So the starter deck comes with second chance, 1 extra life, 15 health, 25% bleed resistance. And then wounded animal, kills while at critical health, recover 1 health. Reload drills, 20% reload speed, 25% swap speed. Antibiotic ointment, plus 25% healing efficiency. And when you use a medical accessory, the target heals 20 temporary health. This is temporary health. It will disappear eventually. And then combat knife. This basically just replaces your melee bash, which every character has just a simple melee attack that they can do. This replaces it with a combat knife. So instead of punching an enemy, you now have a knife that you slash at the enemy. Uh, this card is pretty useless in the long run. So, and this is why I know people are running starter decks on harder difficulties because you don't use this card. It's pretty much just an early game, like you're new to the game. You have this in the starter deck. You're probably going to use it because you don't have much of a choice. You have to use the starter deck. Um, so generally speaking, if I see somebody using this, I know they're a newbie because this is not something that is generally run in any form of deck by anybody. Then they've added some stamina, ammo, health, and fortune cards to this. This was not here originally. This is something I just realized that was here because I haven't looked at the starter deck in forever. Um, these are just generic cards that you cannot actually access here for the decks. These are things that you usually find throughout a map when you're running any particular section. So these being here is kind of odd. I didn't know that they added these. But as you can see here, I have several different decks that I have built for characters of varying types, such as my build for Tala that uses bows, which pretty much is a use speed, move speed, and just general usefulness kind of stuff. She is not a heavy damage dealer in terms of this deck. It is something that I would like to change, but as you can see, we have a 15 card limit in our deck, so it's a little bit, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. I'm still working on it. Then I have my melee deck. I have a healer deck made up for Doc. I called this one Fast EMT because I was trying to work on the aspect of her speed and trying to get her to be able to move a little bit quicker. So this deck is built around the idea of basically just being a support deck and allowing me to move around and not get cornered, pretty much. Again, it's another thing that I'm still working on, still trying to tweak and see what cards I need to take out, what cards I need to put in. And same goes for any of these. We're still kind of figuring out some of them. But yeah, the making a deck is very important. Without it, let's go over to the campaign. Without a proper deck, really, a newbie should only be playing on Recruit. And this is for a few reasons. One, you don't have cards unlocked. And the cards in your deck are very important. You need stuff to be able to run it on higher difficulties. And that is pretty much the end all be all of this. Even trying to run the game on veteran with the starter deck, you're going to struggle. Like, trust me on this. If you're a newbie, play recruit, learn all the different maps, learn all the new mechanics, learn the missions that you have to accomplish a task for, and then once you have all the cards unlocked and you've got a proper deck built, move up to veteran. And basically, the way I put it is use veteran to tweak that deck. Like, if you find yourself struggling for some reason on veteran, don't think that you can just jump over to nightmare or even no hope. Uh, Definitely stay away from that kind of thought process. You need to like use veteran to tweak your deck, make it a little bit stronger, and hopefully it'll carry you through and you won't be dying constantly. Then you can make it over to nightmare, and if you're feeling really confident, you can go to no hope. Now, while we're on the screen, because you're probably seeing some of the things mentioned, you have modifiers. And those modifiers are friendly fire. So on recruit, there is no friendly fire. You don't have to worry about that. Extra lives. Basically, extra lives is if you get killed, you will be put into incapacitated mode. So somebody can run over to you and get you back up, get you back on your feet. So on recruit, you still have one of those. You have bonus stats for your health, damage, and ammo. And then you have trauma resistance, and you'll notice right here on recruit it says high. And then stat room or safe room recovery. So this is you recovering your health, your ammo, and your trauma. which is very important because in later stages, trauma becomes a very big deal. I don't think that there's a whole lot of trauma recovery unless you have cards for that. There are some ways to heal trauma outside of the deck, but those are very iffy because, as I said, there is some RNG at play. So whether or not you even find those things is very iffy. Like, I cannot stress that enough that this is RNG, it's more RPG based. So you need to be thinking of this game more in terms of Borderlands. If you're coming in here as a newbie with the starter deck thinking you're going to jump all the way up to no hope, I'm going to tell you right now, you have no hope of beating it. Trust me on that. I hadn't even attempted no hope, and in fact, on Nightmare, I'm only at Act 2. And the game's been out for quite a while. I've only made it to Act 2 on Nightmare. Uh, it has changed a little bit. I did notice that I can now access all of the acts for some reason. I shouldn't be able to do that. As far as Nightmare, I am on Act 2. So I should not be able to access Act 3, 4, 5, and 6, but for some reason it will let me. I don't know why. But yeah, and the stats are important. I did notice on Reddit, people were saying that the stats are not important. That is not true. That is very, very not true. The stats that you get from the cards are extremely important. For instance, my shotgun build here is more about reload speed than actual shotguns. So I wish I could actually demonstrate this, but I can't really demonstrate it. So we're just going to grab a shotgun real quick. And I'm going to unload this thing. You'll see how long it takes for me to reload that. With the shotgun deck I made, it's got a lot of reload speed in it. So when I'm actually using that deck out in the actual game, my reload speed is so fast that it might as well just be like... Here, let me grab this. We need... Well, that'll work. Actually, we'll do this. This will be a good comparison. Like, without reload speed, this is how fast I reload. Okay, a few seconds. Not terrible, but not good. Now, with this legendary reload card, you can see that it's a little bit faster, but not exactly extreme. And that's what my deck is built around doing for shotguns. It is built around making sure that I reload extremely quick. That way I can use whichever shotgun I want. Generally speaking, I grab the super, which is basically what I just had. Simply because it has the most damage. And each one of these has different stats as far as how long it takes to reload, how much damage it actually does, and the recoil. And recoil is very, very important. So let me give you an example of the recoil by grabbing this. And keep in mind this compensator. This compensator is not a legendary one. It only has 20% recoil control. So it's not going to do a whole lot of justice. Just watch what happens when I shoot. You see how high up we jumped there? Okay, now let's go over here and grab this. Now, when we didn't have it, we were jumping about here. This is how high up we were jumping. And you'll notice that this now does not jump as high, and it returns back to where we were aiming much quicker than beforehand. So, stats are important. And in fact, if you have a high enough accuracy, so we can see here that there are a few cards that increase your accuracy. Most people think this is accuracy based on how you're aiming. It is not. It is the crosshair. So right now, let's just go with this one. So right now, accuracy has to deal with my accuracy while I'm aiming from the hip. And as you can see, our crosshair is very, very far apart. Unfortunately, because of the way the game works, I cannot actually demonstrate this in the training range. If we could get into an actual game and I could show you with a deck, which I do not have set up, you would see that the crosshair would be actually much, much closer together. As you can see there. So this is very far apart. This is a little bit closer. So accuracy is how close together the crosshair is when you're shooting from the hit, not aiming down the sights. And I say this because it's very important. Because the bow deck that I have, you can see how small the crosshair is on this. The bow deck I have, actually that crosshair is completely together. So all I gotta do is put my cursor over something and I can actually hit it. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit better shot than I was thinking I was, so I was hoping to demonstrate that we can still miss, but... Okay, even while I'm trying to, like, purposely miss the target, we're still hitting it. Okay, yeah, that's a horrible demonstration, but like I said, I was trying to purposely miss it, and I'm still hitting it. Yeah, so, like, going that high over, we are now missing it, and then still managing to hit it right there. Okay, I'm not sure why it's doing that. It shouldn't be a hit. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the point is that the stats that you get from the cards and the characters are important, especially on health. Let's back out of that. So you can see in the bottom left corner we have 100 health, and 100 health is standard for all of the characters. There are cards that also increase your health. So right here, this one takes 30% of your health away. Not very good. The damage increase from this card is nice. I do not actually recommend using Glass Cannon at all because your health pool is so low with that you can basically be one shot by any given Ridden. As you can see here, this one gives you plus 5 health, this one gives you plus 10 health, plus 5 health here, plus 10 health, but it takes away your ability to aim down the sights. So yeah, needless to say, stats are important. So I will say, you definitely need to unlock all of the cards before you even attempt playing on a much higher difficulty. I don't care how good you are at first-person shooters. This is more like an RPG, so you need to get all the cards, build a proper deck before you move up to at least veteran. So, yeah. I will say that much about it. Now, there's a couple of other things that I would love to talk about. Unfortunately, I can't really show you. I seem to remember there was an area where we could look at all the corruption cards, but I haven't been able to find that because I do remember being able to look at them, but that is apparently gone at this point. Corruption cards are cards that the AI plays that will dynamically change any given level. And it's different. It's partly different from stage to stage, but also some of those cards continue over to the next stage. Examples of that is like the ferocious cards. Ferocious cards just mean how likely they are to attack you, and if they are doing more damage, basically. I don't have all the corruption cards memorized, so I cannot say exactly what each one of them does. I do know that there are some for different types of Ridden or mutations, and then there's even ones that give the mutations armor, which... Yeah, the armor is probably the most annoying one, because then, even if you're shooting them in their weak spot, the weak spot's covered up by armor, so until you remove the armor, you can't actually damage the creature. Now you can just do body shots on them, but as any good first-person shooter player knows, body shots take a lot more damage and a lot more bullets to actually kill something than just simply shooting it in the head or shooting something that is a weak spot. So, yeah. And then the armor, some of the base level Ridden, as far as body shots, they won't actually take damage. They will never die. You actually have to kill them by shooting them in the head. So that is something that you need to be aware of, and something that, you know, is quite troublesome to actually deal with when you are dealing with a horde. Now, there is another thing as far as cards concerned that I wanted to talk about. You do have cards for hordes. Unfortunately, I don't have that many horde cards actually unlocked yet. There's still a few more hidden behind the Skull Totem supply line, which I have not completely unlocked all of these. That one is not a horde card, but yeah, there's a few of them that are specific to hordes. Actually, I guess I do have everything unlocked. Anyway, these basically give you bonuses based on how many times a horde has been summoned. And the reason I bring these up is I actually was in a game a few days ago where a guy was saying that he's playing a horde deck and he needs to summon hordes in order to be the most effective, and he's a lot better than us. And the reason he brought it up is because I was annoyed that he kept triggering every single horde. I wish there was an example out here, but there's a couple of different things that you have to move around that can summon a horde out. That is birds, car alarms, door alarms, and even the snitcher. These can all potentially summon a horde, and it's better to just avoid those if at all possible. As far as the snitcher, you can kill those, but you have to kill them in a way that they are not going to summon a horde. So basically you just need to one-shot them. So if you don't have enough damage or the right gear, you're not going to one-shot them. You're probably going to do at most 3 or 4 shots, and then it's going to be dead. With any kind of assault rifle or shotgun, that's just not quick enough to actually stop them from summoning the horde. So it is much better if you have high damage with a sniper rifle and get a headshot in order to get rid of those. Now, there are some caveats to that because there are some legendary weapons that you can find that potentially can do one-shot kills. However, this is a percentage chance. There is no guarantee that it will happen. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And I'm trying to think of some of the other things that a new player might need to know. Like, we did briefly talk about missions, and one of the things about the missions is missions come in a variety of flavors and even in a variety of combinations. And these are, for the most part, stage specific. For instance, let me get on recruit here. Select starting mission. So the crossing. I didn't mean to actually select that and back me out of that. So the crossing. This particular stage is a endless horde, meaning once the horde starts, it will not stop until the level is completed. So if you trigger the endless horde, you need to just start running and get to the end of the level in order to get the objective to change. I've seen it one too many times where players will trigger the Endless Horde and then just sit there and fight the Endless Horde without realizing it's endless. And this happens in a few spots. This is one of them. And pretty much any of the end sections, if you can see all these dots up here. So on this section here, again, this is an Endless Horde. You pretty much just need to complete the mission. The diner, this is an Endless Horde. However, it's also a time-based Endless Horde, and that timer is also based on the difficulty. So if you're in a higher difficulty, you're going to have a much longer timer. I think on Nightmare, it's about 4 minutes. On Veteran, it's like 2.5 minutes, I think, and I believe on Recruit, it's like 1 minute that you have to survive. So keep that in mind because each one of these sections has their own little unique things, such as Abandon. Abandon has a section, in fact, when you get to this portion of the map right here, it's literally just a sprint down this entire corridor into this house. Once you get to this door, go into the house and the horde will end. And then there's another section almost immediately after this that is yet again another endless horde, and that one is basically just sprint to the safe room. And it's actually behind this house, and there's like a path that goes along this way, and then up here, and over into a mine section, and it goes up and over and a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, those sections are just endless. There is no point in fighting the horde. Just run in those sections. You just want to get through it as fast as possible. And then there's various other things like sound the sound of thunder is pretty much just an endless horde. Until you complete the mission, the horde's just going to keep coming at you. So it's better just to finish the mission. And on this particular one, it is a task that you have to complete. I think on Recruit, it is you have to fire off a howitzer 4 times. Then on Veteran, you have to fire the howitzer 6 times. And I believe on Nightmare, it is 8 times. Or maybe 10, I don't remember. I've only been there once, but I have not actually beaten it. And in fact, like I said earlier, my own playthrough, I am only on Act 2, so I have not... Sorry, this is Act 1. Yeah, I don't remember. Let's just leave it at that. So, it does increase based on difficulty. So the higher difficulty you're on, the more task or the more time or whatever it is you have to complete in order to beat the horde. So really for a new player on Recruit is the best way to learn what those particular tasks are, what those sections that you have to run are, what those sections are that you just have to defend, and all that important information. And the best way to learn that is just play through it on Recruit. You don't want to be dealing with a new player on like Nightmare that's going around doing things that summons the horde before the team is ready as a whole. The most notable of that I have seen is, I have to be on Recruit for that, is the crossing. I've seen way too many newbies trigger the endless horde without realizing that what we need to do is run. Basically, it's just get from point A to point B. They're going to tell you to go to point C and D to complete something, and then you got to run back to point B. So, yeah, if you're new, you really need to play on Recruit first to learn all the maps, learn what you got to do, and again, unlock all the cards. And there is something that I skipped over about the cards that we need to talk about too. Burn cards. You may be wondering what these are. These are one-time use cards. So you use it, it applies an effect for that map, that specific map, and only that map, and then you continue on. And it eats the card. So, for instance, on these weapon cards, if I play one of these cards, such as the sniper, it will give me a sniper rifle. It'll take away the card. I've used up that card. Now, as far as the weapons are concerned, you do keep the weapon, but you lose the card. And then there's a variety of these different cards, like increasing your resistance to fire, acid, and explosion, giving your team an extra life, giving or healing your team for 15 health and trauma, and increasing your trauma resistance for that map. It is not continuous. It does not apply to the entire playthrough. It is just for that specific map. This one here, Hell Can Wait, gain one additional continue. That actually is a cumulative one. So if you play multiple of these across a couple of different maps, it'll keep all of those. I know this because I found it out by accident, actually. I did not ask around. I did not see how it worked. I found it by accident. And basically that was, I was playing on Nightmare, decided to use one of these because I had some people join my game that were too new. They didn't know what they were doing. We ended up wiping. I played this card so that I could continue my run because I had some very good gear at the time. And when I got to the next stage, I thought, well, I'll go ahead and play another one of these because I want to continue this run. And the run actually ended up with 2 continues instead of the 1 continue that you're supposed to have. So, yeah, these do stack. This card here, Windfall, you gain an extra 150 copper at the start of a map. Kind of nice. I'm running low on those because I've used quite a few of those. And then there's a few other cards, burn cards. But again, these cards are like one-time use items. So you play that card at the beginning of the map, and then it gets used up, and you have whatever effect, whatever it is. And yeah, that's how those work. So we don't really need to talk about the profile stuff, like the personalization and the accomplishments, because that's going to be for like long-term players, like unlocking things such as your banner that has your title and your emblem. That's not very important for new players, so same thing for the accomplishments. Not very important, just know that that's over here in profiles. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I can't think of anything else that I didn't go over or didn't talk about. If you got more questions, leave it in the comments, and I will get back to you on those, and I will tell you a little bit more in depth on something if you want to know. But if you're a new player, again, I do just highly recommend that you play on Recruit until you learn everything and get all the cards unlocked. I do not recommend you play on any higher difficulties until you've gotten a proper deck built. You can go out there and find cookie cutter builds for your decks and a specific character. I don't like cookie cutter stuff, so I tend to make decks that are personalized to me. Same goes for any other kind of RPG. I like doing things my way, not some cookie cutter build. So yeah, you can pick and choose what you want there. You can either use a cookie cutter or just come up with some kind of combination on it for yourself. I would suggest, though, keeping your deck specific. Don't make one that is general, like it's generalized for you can play as anything. You need to build these for a specific task or role, such as healing, support, scavenger, damage, or melee. That you need to do it that way. Trust me on that. And you need to do it based on a particular character that you want to play as. Trust me on that. You'll get a lot further if you do it that way. Because I have come across quite a few player builds that I've been like, wow. I don't get what this build is. I actually came across one the other day that was a shotgun build with aim down sights disabled, but they didn't have any accuracy whatsoever. So my crosshair, if we come back out to here, my crosshair was like that wide without moving. And I didn't understand why. I couldn't aim down the sights, nothing. I just had an enormous crosshair with a shotgun. I was like, I'm not going to be able to hit anything with this. I was like, why would you play like this? This makes zero sense. Like, can you imagine trying to hit something like this? Yeah. So, there you go. There you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And hopefully you will see me in game if you play. I am trying to make my way through Nightmare, but typically you will find me in Veteran, as I am trying to get Skull Totems to unlock the rest of the Skull Totem items. But yeah, that's where I'm at on that, and hopefully, guys, you'll see me out there. And until then, keep killing the Ridden and stay positive, because this game, it can be a big pain in the butt, especially if you get newbies who think that just because it's an FPS that they can play it like any other and play on the highest difficulty. No. No, that's not how this works. Like I said earlier, this is more like Borderlands. You wouldn't take a level 1 character into a level 120 zone. It's just not going to work. You're going to die a horrible death. So keep that in mind, guys, when you play, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the game, enjoy the ride, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.